How's it going, Man United fans? Welcome back to the Man United podcast. Straight into it. So, Man United Spurs, crunch time, top four on the line. A big game for Man United, and it shouldn't have been as big as it is going to turn out to be for this top four. You know, considering the games we've had across December and January, we're getting into and even February, but we're getting into the end of February and into March. Obviously, some major issues in regards to the performances, and it has led to this, where Man United are now struggling to pull it all together, and are now behind, chasing the likes of Arsenal, got West Ham sniffing around, and Spurs. And making it difficult for ourselves. So we're now going into this game against Spurs with what is there now, 12 games to play, something along those lines. I haven't looked exactly at what it is, and we've got to win this game. Got to win this game. Huge game. So yeah, a bit obviously frustrating that that's a position that we are facing now. So that being said, we move on to sort of talk about Rangnick's press conference, really. Expecting that all those questions would come about the lack of performance at the Etihad the other weekend, about the performances in the second half dropping away and not being there, players down in tools. Did it come? Did the questioning come? Not really. Pretty poor journalism, really, considering the situation that Man United are in with the top four race, considering the fixtures we've had, the performances we've had, the turnaround, the sacking of Ollie, the down tools last week, the back and forth with the captaincy issues, the issues in training, the situation with Ronaldo a little bit, albeit he kind of touched on that a little bit as well. But we'll go into that. But pretty disappointing press conference again. I've watched a few recently where I felt like the level of questioning is more politically driven than it is football driven, and especially Man United specifically driven. We went on to ask him initially about Russia, what the moral obligation these managers and other people taking certain roles within certain football clubs have to take, or potentially have to take, before taking them. His answer was, well, 3 weeks ago we didn't know what position we were going to be in. Nobody knew there was going to be a full-scale war between Russia and Ukraine. Nobody knew that this would affect Chelsea and this would affect Roman Abramovich in particular. Obviously, you mentioned there's other clubs that have had Russian oligarchs in those sort of positions. But, for managers, for coaches, for anybody involved with football at this elite level, to have to consider the political side of the backroom political side of it and the moral obligations that come with that. How did Roman Abramovich come about his wealth? Was always a suspect thing. I think when he bought Chelsea many moons ago, in regards to how he attained his wealth. That's not to say that anybody that was affiliated with the club then, players, managers, coaches, whoever, were then suddenly tainted or tarred with that same brush. I think that's unfair. Their focus has been football, their focus has been other things, and it's daft that Rangnick's getting asked those levels of questions. He's not there to discuss political aspects of football. They're not even aspects of football. The political issues which happen to be about a football club. They're not even, politically sort of relevant, really, or even relevant at all for someone like Rangnick to be discussing. A manager of another team who was in a turmoil in itself in regards to the actual footballing hierarchy and the footballing brand that it's currently within. Man United are struggling at this moment in time. That they should be the conversation that we're having. The players and the issues that we're having with players should be the topic of conversation, not issues regarding Roman Abramovich and Chelsea and Tuchel and all those sort of things. So, yeah, a little bit embarrassing, really, from the journalists. I think there was poor journalism, poor questioning. As fans, as Man United fans, we want to see the manager being probed in the right sort of ways. We want answers. They've got to be our kind of vicarious mouthpiece in which we want questions to be asked directly to the manager, and they've not done that. They've done that to for their own agendas, whatever that might be. Albeit I'm sure most of the world don't care about Rangnick's views on Russia or the war with Ukraine anyway. So daft and ridiculous journalism, to be fair. But more onto the footballing side. So eventually we did get there in the end. Obviously asked about the game against Spurs quite quickly on from some of the questions regarding the war, and the questions were regarding generally the importance of getting the result against Spurs. I don't think anybody needs to know or needs to know what the importance of the game is. You only have to look at the table to see that it's a very important game for Man United. I think, in my opinion, I said this weeks ago, I think it was a Watford game where it was a goalless draw. I think, to be quite honest, and if I'm fair, I think it had gone prior to that, looking at the fixtures. But the Burnley game equally was a setback. But I think the Watford game was a massive setback, and with a goalless draw there when we were all over Watford. Didn't get the result, and I think the top 4 place went then. But we're still in with the shout. Mathematically, it's still possible. I think when you look at the momentum that Arsenal have got, I've not looked at their fixtures, but when you look at the fixtures, I'm sure they're favourable in patches as well. So there's generally a lot of plus points in favour of Arsenal. I think to take this now. They've got 3 games in hand. It's a ridiculous number of games in hand to take. If they were sort of going for a title race, we were second, they were first, and they had 3 games in hand on us with points in front. You'd say they would take it. So it's all we've got to do now is keep fighting out, show a bit of character now, give the fans a little bit of something to cling on to. Redeem themselves this season. They've had some embarrassing defeats. They've had some embarrassing draws. They've had some embarrassing performances generally. And I think now there's an opportunity here to make amends, to put in a solid performance against Spurs at home and get the result, keep us in the fight. I think if we go the opposite direction and we lose this game or we draw the game, it's just going to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and I think there'll be another week of a slagging match, and there'll be somebody to blame, and there'll be issues with certain players. We need a win. We need a win for everybody's sake, I think, and for Man United's sake, and we move on from there, really. But yeah, obviously, it said it was important to win. We understand that the importance to win. Players, more than anything else, have been told of the importance, not told of the importance to win, are aware of the importance of the win. I think that was key, really, and I think they need to be aware of that more often. Of games and the importance of games. Now that could sort of, add tension, not confidence, but I think players need to understand the magnitude of the shirt they're putting on, the magnitude of the stadium they're playing in, the magnitude of the league they're playing in, the fixtures they're playing in, and what they're fighting for, because I think sometimes that's missed. And that's when we see performances like we did last week against City in the second half, where clearly the performances are dropping and it's not good enough. So no, definitely, obviously players aware of that, and that's good. Whether we'll see that, obviously you mentioned that the players trained well. I take nothing from that, really, to be honest. I mean, players playing against themselves in training, ultimate confidence, no pressure, not in front of fans, fit, had a few days off. It's not a pressure, is it? I think the only thing you can take from it is that they're fit, they're raring to go. There's a psychological, high in the camp. I think they're the only things you can sort of take from it: physical and mental highs. There's no particular lows. Nobody's down. Nobody's feeling ill. Nobody's injured. Everybody's feeling good. So they're the kind of things that you can take from that. But other than that, get to the Spurs game on Saturday, and that's going to be a different ball game altogether, isn't it? So mentioned the players miss him. So mentioned the players missing. Talked a little bit about that, and just mentioned that basically we've still got Luke Shaw out from COVID. He's daft now. Obviously, everyone forgets about COVID a little bit, but he's got COVID. interesting, really, considering you know, that they've had all these jabs. There doesn't seem to be an outbreak in the camp. Now, has he picked that up? But apparently he's got COVID. But it's always convenient. These players seem to get injuries. You know, we've had a spate of injuries with certain players when they don't seem to be particularly on form. You know, we've not had a run of a player on form and then picking up an injury this season, which is unfortunate, and you don't want to see it anyway. You don't want to see an injury with players off form. But what I mean is we don't seem to have been seeing a lot of players having injuries where they've been just on a spate of form. It's quite convenient that Luke Shaw's got he's out with COVID. I'm not suggesting he's not got COVID. I'm just saying it's you know, he's not been on any particular form either. So it's not like we're thinking, right, we missed Luke Shaw. I think Teller's coming in to replace him, you know, will probably be welcomed by most of the fans. So yeah, that's obviously a setback with Luke Shaw. Obviously, if anything happens to Tellers as well, then obviously it does set us back a little bit. Scott McTominay's got a calf injury. I think he wants to save him for the midweek game on Tuesday against Atletico Madrid. So no doubt he'll not feature and won't be fit enough to go with the squad tomorrow. So he'll be out. I felt obviously then Rangnick got sort of pitched about Ronaldo. It was obviously coming, wasn't it, about Ronaldo missing last week, about his injury. Is he fit? Is he going to play? Then obviously talked a little bit about his travel to Portugal, despite, you know, rather than him travelling with the squad and watching the game or even staying in the country. I mean, Ronaldo's got millions and millions of pounds in the bank. He can click his fingers and get a private jet, almost, I'm sure, landing near his house within minutes. Not his house, obviously, but, you know, within the airport in minutes, and he can be away to somewhere like Portugal, which is what, an hour and a half, an hour and 45, 2 hours on a private jet, probably even less. It's nothing to Ronaldo. You know, it's absolutely nothing to Ronaldo. It's in the same, you know, it's in Greenwich Mean Time. There's not a time zone difference. He's not going to be jet lagged. Absolutely nothing to him. So it's an absolute nothing story, really, and he batted that away. Fair play to Rangnick. He said, look, it was in the past. It did seem a tense series of questions, and he did seem quite annoyed by it, by his mannerisms. You could tell it was going to come. He was prepared for it, Rangnick, but you could sort of tell he was frustrated by it. I think if you were to ask him off the record, I think he would have given you an honest answer, and his honest answer would have probably been that he felt it unnecessary for Ronaldo to travel away to Portugal, and that he didn't discuss it with the club. These are the problems I think Ronaldo's had this season, you know, and I don't think it's helped his performance. You know, as much as he's experienced and his class and everything else, I think the way that he's integrated with the rest of the team, I think the way that he's integrated with the manager, the way that he's integrated with the club in general, I think has been pretty shoddy from his perspective. I mean, yeah, he's a big player, he's a big character, he's a big player within, you know, football in general, not just in Man United's terms. But you discuss your whereabouts with your employer in any job you work in, you know, regardless of whether you're a football player or not, or if you're one of the best football players in the world or have been. You discuss your whereabouts with your club and with your employer, and then everybody's, you know, understanding of the situation. I don't think it was an issue. I think the fact that he didn't mention it was probably the more of an issue, and obviously Rangnick just dismissed it and moved on, and I'm sure he had a conversation with Ronaldo. Maybe not, I don't know how he deals with things, but you'd like to think that he did. Yeah, but obviously not good, and hopefully he's fit. He said he's fit and ready to come back, but then it was quite dismissive of the fact that he just said he'd feature in the squad. It wasn't sort of making any suggestions that he would be starting. Is that a tactical cover-up more than anything else, or is it a message to Ronaldo or a message to anybody else who's listening that, you know, nobody's bigger than the team, and he's back fit and he'll gradually integrate his way back into the starting 11? I think ultimately for Ronaldo, as we probably all know as Man United fans, we can't see him playing beyond this season. I think even if we get top four, even get the Champions League this season, which is a far stretch now, but if we do get top four, I think we're all pretty confident, aren't we, that Ronaldo's going to be leaving this season. I think he'll probably most likely go back to his home country. I think he seems to be sort of making more of an effort to get back there when he can. And I think, Sporting Lisbon has obviously been somewhere that he said he wants to sort of see out some of his career. Before he hangs his boots up, he wants to be there again before he sees it out. And I think we'll see him there for a year at least, and that might be next year. I think the Premier League's shown him now that the end is very, very near for Ronaldo. I think just in terms of it at a top flight level, I think he's got probably many more years if he wants it at higher paid leagues and higher paid clubs, i.e. China, USA, wherever he wants to go in there over there. But I don't think that's his appetite really. And does he need it? The money he's earned over the years that he's earned it. He's such a big public figure now. He's earning more money in other things than football, I'm sure. So no, it's that's a situation I think we're on, and I think we'll be sad to see him go. At the end of the season, it was great to see him come into the team, but unless he seriously turns his form around, I think he's not happy at Old Trafford, and I think it's I think the glitz and the glamour of it coming back has quickly worn off for him, and for the fans I think a little bit as well. So yeah, we'll see, but I'd love to see him stay for another season, but I don't think it's the best thing for Ronaldo, and I don't think it's the best thing for Manchester United at this time. So Cavani's fit as well. We see Cavani. Well, Cavani's in the same boat as Ronaldo, isn't he? Really, we could see him feature. Do I think he will? I don't think he will start. I think if any out of two of them are going to play, it's going to be Ronaldo. I could quite easily see that neither of them start, and it starts with Rashford, despite his poor form. I've not gone with that in my formation prediction, but that's more of a mixture of my expectation and my want for what I think he should play. But yeah, Cavani's fit, but Cavani's seemingly been out on and off now for what seems like 2 or 3 months. So the kind of joy of having him around is kind of waned a little bit, I think, as well for most of fans. Most of all for myself, I think. He was performing last season. He was a big part of the team. I think Ronaldo's inclusion has put his nose out of joint a little bit, and he's never really kind of got to those levels that he needs to be at. That he was last season, and I think the injuries have had a real setback for him. I think when you're in your 30s and you're suffering with injuries, the form, it's difficult to get that form back up as well. You get your fitness back up, but clearly Cavani's suffering more and more injuries more and more regularly now, which is not a great sign. But no, it'd be nice to see him play. Obviously, he said he's going to travel with the squad, which is a bonus. And obviously it strengthens our bench a little bit as well. So no, we'll see on that one. So we'll jump into the formation. Jump straight into that. Here we go. So team stats. I put the stats up from the previous game there. So the previous game, we had 9 shots. Spurs had 9 shots. We had 10 shots. They had 0 shots on target, which is obviously awful. We had 4. Obviously, we won this game 3-0. I had 41% possession. They had 59. Passes 570 to 421, so quite a high passing game. They had 85%. Passing accuracy, we had 80%. Fouls, 14 fouls. Quite a dirty old game, really. 14 to Spurs' 12. Yellow cards, 3 to Spurs' 2. So quite a few cards dished out as well. No red card either way. Offsides 4 to Spurs, 1 to United, and then 10 corners to Spurs. United only getting the 1. So yeah, a pretty even game really. Shots were even, despite the fact that we got more on target. Possession was a little bit more in their favour. Couldn't really call that even. Nearly 60% to Spurs across the game, albeit not a great deal more passes. Obviously quite a physical game with the amount of fouls that were committed on both sides, but Spurs clearly having more of the ball and more chances created. So the scoreline really, I think United were just a little bit more clinical, but was a better performance from United, but judging by the stats, obviously clearly not a dominant display. And that's been a general theme for United for most of this season, hasn't it? Where we just haven't dominated games. We just haven't controlled games. I think the only game I can recall this season was that Watford game, where we dominated the game and just comically, dominated the game for the first time, couldn't score. We're looking at the formation then. I think it's going to be a typical formation. Back four. We see Wan-Bissaka instead of Dalot. I went for Dalot, hoping that it's going to be Dalot. I think we'll probably see Wan-Bissaka because I think he'll just be a little bit fearful that he'll need his defensive presence. But as we saw on Sunday, Wan-Bissaka double up on him and he's all over the place. So I hope we see Dalot. I think we could quite easily see Wan-Bissaka though, but I've put Dalot in there with Varane and Maguire. Varane obviously fit. There's no issues with Varane, so that's good. Varane comes back and he slots straight in there. Big miss these last last fixture and stuff. So obviously he's had a week or so to recover. Comes back in Varane and straight back at it. Varane's another one where he's picking up quite regular sort of injuries. Seems quite frail at times. He's had a few setbacks this season as well. And he's one player, that we have missed when he's been injured. He's, the only player really you could see there when he has been out. It's been a big sort of miss for us. So obviously that's a big plus point that he comes back in there with Maguire. Obviously Teller slots in at left back as Shaw's got COVID. Then in midfield, I think we'll obviously see Pogba and Fernandes in some shape. Fred, sceptical. Obviously we won't see McTominay due to his calf injury. But we will see somebody else in there, and it'll either be Fred and Matic. Depends on what he wants to do. I think Matic would be the preferred option. I think just to get us moving forward. Fred there just to sort of obviously just be a bit of a breaker up of play and a bit of a reinforcer. But personally, I'd rather see Matic in there. But I've gone with Fred just because I think that's the more feasible and more practical and probably more realistic choice. I think that's what we'll end up seeing. I think up front, obviously, I think we will see Ronaldo. I think we will see Ronaldo start. Old Trafford against Spurs, scored last time. I think we'll see Ronaldo start, and I think Sancho's guaranteed to start now. I think he's one of very few players in the team now these days that is pretty much guaranteed a spot. I think Fernandes is another one. And I think Varane, when he's fit, is another one as well. And obviously De Gea. So you've got De Gea, Fernandes and Sancho now are absolute guaranteed to start. And well, Sancho's just getting there. Sancho's just kind of crossing that line where you think, right, okay, you're just getting to that point now where you're becoming undroppable now. Just about. I think over his last 2 or 3 weeks where you're thinking, right, you scored against City, you played well the week before. You're doing pretty well now. So that's a good thing to see. I think with Sancho coming in there and sort of solidifying his position, but it's just taken him a bit too long to get up to speed, hasn't it? A little bit this season, but hopefully, we get over this little hump, and he starts really kicking on, and we make some decent sort of acquisitions to support him a little bit next season. But Sancho's in there. I put Elanga on the right. I think I've got a funny feeling we might see Rashford in this game. I think we'll definitely see Rashford coming on. I think we may see Rashford start. We may see Rashford start instead of Ronaldo. With Ronaldo coming on, we might see Rashford wide right. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm not convinced that Rashford isn't going to feature in the starting lineup. I feel like he will do. But I've gone with Elanga for now, just because I think that's a more logical option considering recent form. So yeah, that's the formation that I think we'll see tomorrow. So R5 kick-off, so obviously later afternoon kick-off. Obviously Kane on a bit of form as well, Son. So it'll be tougher than it was earlier on in the year, last year, sorry. And we remain to wait and see the outcome, but we've just got to work very hard. All got to be moving in the same direction with the press. Capitalise on his chances when we get it. We've got to make the right choices. Try and be progressive as quickly as we can. And hopefully we'll get something out of this game. We've got to try. We've got to treat this like a knockout for me. Draw or lose. it's a draw's not good enough, and obviously if we lose, we're done for in the top 4 race. So we've got to go try and win, and we've got to treat it like a knockout. And if we do that, then we've got every chance of carrying on and having a chance of grabbing the top 4 place. But again, it remains to be seen. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, really. I just wanted to have a quick stream tonight, just talk about Rangnick's press conference, the situation with Ronaldo briefly, and obviously look at the formation very, very quickly. And yeah, that's the way it's going to pan out. I'll do a reaction hopefully Sunday. It's my birthday tomorrow, so I'll be watching the game. Hopefully Man United will produce a result for me on my birthday, and yeah, but probably won't be doing a reaction after the game. But I'll probably be doing one Sunday. So if you've been watching, appreciate it. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, catch you in the next one, guys. See you later.